Oh, on the line with us, Dr. Jerry Corsi, who has been such an important part of our morning show here on 630 KHW for the longest time, and a man named Al who contacted me after we did a radio show with Terrence Lakin's brother, who's also a physician by the name of Greg Lakin, and he lives in Kansas. And I think we were the first to get that interview, and we had Jerry with us, and Jerry took that and put it online along with WorldNet, and as they say, it goes viral, that interview. And I believe that's how Al found out about us and called me over the weekend, leaving a voice message about getting scrubbed, as they say, doing a bio and also just a statement of facts about the Lakin story. Now, we will gear up for this tomorrow. This is the day that the Congress arrives back, but Lakin's court-martial is scheduled December the 14th. And as so many people, I'm very angry about what is being done to this man. And so he contacted me, and he's kind enough to come on the show. So we were speaking. You said, gentlemen, may I say something? We hit the traffic. So, Al, it's yours again if you would.
Oh, thanks. I just want to go over the timeline a little bit about what happened. Wikipedia has built-in, procedures, although they're kind of hard to understand and interpret, but they're procedures for this sort of thing. If you can't just put up an article about, oh, my sister, she's great, she went to the movies last weekend, I love her. That's not relevant. That's a waste of Wikipedia. However, they do have procedures, and what you do is it's nominated for deletion. Then a discussion would follow in which different users can log in and comment about the whether this is actually should be deleted or not and the reasons, and they will type little references to the bylaws of Wikipedia, etc. I don't know how long that process normally takes, but I would expect that it would be probably several days so that everybody has a chance to read what's going on, get on board, and make their comments. Well, in this case, the time frame from when it was nominated to deletion to when it was scrubbed and then redirected to this other article was 1 hour and 11 minutes.
Wow. And again, this is what is been happening, and I think will really intensely begin to happen as the Lakin court-martial is scheduled for the 14th of December. Now, I want this to sink in. Lakin's court-martial is a month away, and Congress returns today. And we have a lot of people that, newly elected members, Jerry and Al, and House and Senate, and we got to drive home this fact. Now, the morning show audience has been really instrumental in Ramos and Campion. We have a case here with Bobby Wallace. We've been through Corey Voorhees here and a number of other stories. The fact that this man, 18 years serving Army officer, numerous deployments overseas, recipient of the Bronze Star as a combat medic's badge, is facing imprisonment for defying orders to seek assurance that Barack Obama is constitutionally eligible. Now, again, why is this president and his supporters, and Alan's a classic example of what's happened. They're spending $2.5 million to hide a birth certificate that's worth less than $20. Lakin's putting his career on the line, and to end it's been called the conspiracy of silence by the mainstream media. You have timid politicians, punk-ass judges, and they were punked by the political correctness, by the COLB, by any numbers of different groups. Citizens need to ratchet up the pressure and demand that Lakin be allowed at least to defend himself. Jerry, my understanding, and Al, you've done some really good work on this, the max is that he either gets kicked out of the military with a dishonorable and can face up to 4 years hard labor, Fort Leavenworth.
Right. Well, it looks like the judge and the court-martial has ruled that the case is going to be limited to the chain of command from the Pentagon on. In other words, saying Lieutenant Colonel Lakin had been issued orders from the Pentagon and not to allow it to be raised to the issue of the Commander-in-Chief, which means no discovery, no examination of President Obama's birth certificate or other birth records. And that almost certainly means that Lieutenant Colonel Lakin is going to be found guilty. What the punishment is will depend upon, the judge's determination or however the punishment's determined.
I said what he's facing, from my reading, is he faces 4 years hard labor and a
right.
DH.
Now, if the court-martial places Lieutenant Colonel Lakin in prison, in a military prison, they'll face the same difficulty the Bush administration did in putting Ramos and Campion.
Yeah, I agree.
The two law enforcement Border Patrol agents who shot after the fleeing drug smuggler.
Mm-hmm.
They'll create a cause célèbre over Lieutenant Colonel Lakin going to prison because he dared ask the question to see President Obama's birth credentials. And again, President Obama's on very weak ground here because you've got, if Lieutenant Colonel Lakin wants to push it, essentially a Nuremberg defense, I believe, in that, if you're not obeying orders in a military command, what was determined at in World War II, at the end of World War II, when the German officers said we're just simply following orders, was that a military officer has the right of conscience to not follow an order if there is a belief the order is somehow invalid or inappropriate or against moral judgment or whatever objection based on the order being wrong.
I want to come back to Al. Al, why do you think this happened to you, and what next? Or why it happened to your work, pardon me.
I can't answer that, I've done a little bit of research about, there are theories about why some things are taken out, but this thought occurred to me. If, like your other guest said, he's got a defense team that's spending several $1 million now on trying to keep a lid on this thing, how hard would it be to pay somebody to just be kind of a watchdog looking for something like this and ready to spring into action? Just because the editor or administrator that took this down has a history of writing and editing a lot of articles, we don't really know who these people are. They could be on the payroll to just sit there.
Well, that's one of the questions I had.
Articles all day, and appear to be just part of the Wikipedia community, but I have no answers.
Well, in John McCain's entry, you'll still see the birth certificate issue raised about John McCain. There's still at least a sentence in the entry which includes it. And, of course, then you go to Barack Obama, and it's always labeled and presented as one of the conspiracies about Obama. Mm-hmm. So, again, the issue has a double standard. If it's raised against a Republican, well, the political left celebrates and cheers the issue and hopes to destroy the Republican. If the birth certificate or eligibility issue under natural-born citizens raised against a Barack Obama, the left goes insane and tries to call anybody who dares discuss the issue nutcase.
Well, but that doesn't work anymore.
It's increasingly getting exposed.
It's not working anymore. I mean, even these guys who write these local columns from the Denver Post, Mike Litwin is the prize example, who uses birther. I called him on the air. We left messages for him. Say, please, look, come in as a gentleman. We're friends. Sit down. Let's discuss it. And he said he'll never come on the show. I offered him, because we're in a morning show, I offered him 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, unedited. We won't edit the tapes. Sit in one of the recording studios here, and we'll debate the issue of the birth certificate, calling it the birther or proofer movement. He didn't even have the nuts to return a phone call. We had one guy, and I tell this to Al, we had one guy, Al, who's an attorney, after I did an article on the birthers and Lakin, that took the challenge and came in here, and I call it the go home and get your shine box interview. The guy was just incredibly weak. Didn't know the story, didn't know the issue, knew nothing about it, and kind of went out of here with his tail between his legs. Having said that, nobody seems to want to have the discussion because the weight is on the other side of the seesaw. The guys like Corsi and guys who have done the heavy lifting, there's no way in this world that those guys could stand up to the story of. Then Jerry's done these stories on his birth father, on his mother moving, on the lies they're told about his childhood. So nobody's going to take that debate.
But what amazes me is two very important documents have come out.
This is Al. This is Al speaking, so people know whose voice is what. I apologize. Sometimes I ask people to identify because it's radio. People can't always see. But sure. let me do this before you begin. I'll break and come back. We're going to do traffic. 630 KHOW, Denver's talk station. 643, traffic, here's Susan.